Fabrizio Romano has provided the latest update on the managerial situation at Tottenham Hotspur following their dramatic draw with Liverpool at Anfield. Spurs could have their preferred and arguably strongest backline fit to face Forest next weekend. The draw against Liverpool is understood to have convinced the Tottenham hierarchy to give Tudor more time while they continue to evaluate the club's long-term managerial plans. And Tottenham Hotspur could be boosted by the return of even more first-team players when the club football resumes after the March international break, with a number of key figures targeting comebacks in April. Here are your daily Tottenham news headlines. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Craig and here are your daily Tottenham news headlines where I'll be going through all the latest news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube and are not already as yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Like, share and comment below. And if you're listening on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. And please make sure you turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever we go live or upload a video to the channel. Okay, let's get into it. Fabrizio Romano has provided the latest update on the managerial situation at Tottenham Hotspur following their dramatic draw with Liverpool at Anfield. Tottenham earned a crucial 1-1 draw after a late equaliser from Richarlison rescuing a point for Igor Tudor's side. The result ended a damaging run of defeats and eased immediate pressure on the interim boss, though uncertainty over the club's long-term managerial plans remains. According to Romano, Tudor's future is still far from secure despite the improved result. Tottenham's leadership are continuing to assess potential candidates for the permanent role ahead of next season, with the Croatian only ever viewed as a short-term appointment. One of the club's leading targets is former Brighton & Hove Albion manager Roberto De Zerbi, who is considered a dream appointment by the Spurs hierarchy. However, any move for the Italian would likely depend on Tottenham securing their Premier League status before the end of the season. Another name admired by the Spurs is former boss Mauricio Pochettino, though his current commitments make a return unlikely in the immediate future. For now, the late point at Liverpool has bought Tudor some breathing space as Tottenham continue their fight against relegation. But behind the scenes, the search for a new manager is ongoing, with the North London club already weighing up options for a major appointment in the summer. Tottenham had hoped to welcome back their captain against Liverpool after he served a 4-game suspension following a red card against Manchester United a few weeks ago, the captain being, of course, Cristian Romero. However, that return was delayed due to concussion protocols after Romero suffered a head clash with João Palhinha during Tuesday's tie with Atletico Madrid. Having missed the Liverpool match, both players could now return for Tottenham in their crucial 6-pointer against Nottingham Forest next weekend. Ahead of the Liverpool game, Igor Tudor revealed that Conor Gallagher was a doubt due to a fever, and the former Atletico Madrid midfielder was ultimately left out of Tottenham's starting 11 against the Reds, confirming his absence. While Tudor confirmed that 4 other players would also miss the clash with Liverpool, there was at least a small piece of good news. The Croatian coach said Destiny Udogie could return for Tottenham's match against Forest, although he would sit out the games against Liverpool and Atletico Madrid. Tottenham were forced to field a makeshift defence against Liverpool, with Radu Dragusin and Kevin Danso lining up as centre-back. The pair held their own, though, conceding just once, a goal that did not come from open play. Normal service could resume next week, though, with Mickey van der Ven expected to be available after completing the suspension he received following his red card against Palace. If Van der Ven returns and Romero is past fit, Tottenham could have their first choice backline available again for the first time since the match against Manchester United under Thomas Frank. The Dutch defender is currently the only player missing through suspension rather than injury. Team Talk report: a dramatic late draw against Liverpool has bought interim manager Igor Tudor valuable time at Tottenham Hotspur, with the club set to delay any immediate managerial change after learning that leading candidate Roberto De Zerbi will not return to coaching until the summer. Tottenham arrived at Anfield in dire form, having suffered 6 consecutive defeats, the worst losing run in the club's 143-year history, which had dragged them to within a point of the relegation zone. 4 of those losses have come since Tudor took interim charge, placing his position under intense scrutiny only weeks after his appointment. However, a resilient performance on Merseyside, culminating in a stoppage-time equaliser from Richarlison to secure a 1-1 draw, has eased the immediate pressure on the Croatian coach. The result is understood to have convinced the Tottenham hierarchy to give Tudor more time while they continue to evaluate the club's long-term managerial plans. Tottenham's leadership had already been exploring potential replacements as they prepare to appoint a permanent successor to former boss Thomas Frank in the summer. Among the candidates admired by the club is the aforementioned De Zerbi, who previously managed Brighton & Hove Albion, of course recently left Olympique de Marseille. The Italian had been approached earlier in the year about taking the job on as an interim basis, and Spurs have checked on his availability again in recent weeks as uncertainty around Tudor intensified. But sources indicate De Zerbi has decided against returning to management before the end of the current season, preferring to take time to assess his next move rather than step into a short-term role midway through a campaign. That stance has effectively removed him as an immediate option for Spurs and strengthens Tudor's position in the short term, with the club likely to persist with the current arrangement until the summer. De Zerbi, however, remains firmly on Spurs' shortlist for the next phase of the project, but any move for him would have to wait until the end of the season. And Spurs are also looking at bringing back former boss Mauricio Pochettino to the club after this summer's World Cup as well. Speaking after the draw at Anfield, Tudor expressed his hope that the result could mark the start of a turnaround for his struggling side. The Croatian emphasised the importance of honesty, effort and belief as Tottenham fight to secure their Premier League status amid ongoing injury problems within the squad. With crucial fixtures looming, including a Champions League clash with Atletico Madrid and a league encounter against relegation rivals Nottingham Forest, Tottenham will now hope the hard-earned point at Anfield provides the momentum needed to steer them away from danger and stabilise Tudor's tenure in the weeks ahead. Tottenham Hotspur could be boosted by the return of several first-team players when the club football resumes after the March international break, with a number of key figures targeting comebacks in April as the North London side attempt to navigate a difficult end to the season. Spurs have endured a brutal injury crisis in recent weeks, with a host of senior players missing matches and leaving interim manager Igor Tudor short of options across the pitch. However, there is cautious optimism that several players could return to contention. One of the most significant boosts could come in the form of Mohamed Kudus. The winger has been sidelined since January with a quad tendon injury, but is expected to resume full training following the international break. Spurs have lacked natural width during his absence, and his return could provide a timely attacking spark. Midfield reinforcements may also arrive in the form of Rodrigo Bentancur, who has been recovering from hamstring surgery sustained earlier this year. The Uruguayan has missed several months of action, but is targeting a return in April if his rehabilitation continues as planned. Young midfielder Lucas Bergvall is another player Spurs are hopeful of welcoming back. The teenager has been working his way back from injury and could be in contention for involvement once domestic action resumes. Hopefully Spurs should also welcome back Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero, João Palhinha, Destiny Udogie, Conor Gallagher and Yves Bissouma for the first game back against Sunderland after the international break, giving Igor Tudor a plethora of players to choose from. Further forward, the club continue to track the progress of Dejan Kulusevski, who has been dealing with a complicated knee issue. Although his return date remains uncertain, the Swedish international has been undergoing treatment and Spurs are hopeful he could yet feature before the end of the campaign. Although progressing well, James Maddison is not expected back until the summer following knee surgery, while Ben Davies' season is over after suffering a broken ankle earlier in the season. With Spurs battling to stabilise their season, and potential return of several key players after the international break could offer a timely lift as Tudor looks to rebuild momentum during the final weeks of the campaign. First up, however, is the small matter of Sunday's clash with Nottingham Forest. A victory would provide a timely lift heading into the 3-week international break and would also move Spurs 4 points clear of their opponents in the process. Okay, well, here's my thoughts on all those stories today. I mean, it's mainly really about the Liverpool game and whether Tudor keeps his job. I think we'd all probably aware or would think that had we lost to Liverpool and not seen a decent performance, then Tudor would probably be out the door this morning, you would have thought. And that draw against Liverpool seems to have bought him a bit more time and probably you can't argue with that at the moment, even though I think that, I said last week that Tudor still has to go, and I'm still not 100% convinced, by the way. But, that team yesterday, that performance against Liverpool, they were fighting. They were fighting all the way for the whole game, every single player. And he has to take credit for that. You have to give him credit for that. And the lineup had to change at the last minute because of Conor Gallagher's illness. Weird decision to put Sousa on right midfield, but certainly didn't let himself down. Played well. I did like the four at the back. I really did. I thought Jed Spence handled his job particularly well against Rio. Obviously, with Liverpool having Frimpong and Rio on the wings, that's devastating pace. And to a large extent, we dealt with it pretty well. I thought Sarr was brilliant in the middle. I thought Archie Gray was superb. Richarlison was brilliant. Real battling performance from him. All our players, whether they were playing for the manager, themselves, the fans, I don't really care at this point. I just want to see us picking up points, and that stopped the rot in a place, excuse me, at Anfield, where we haven't done well over the years, have we? It's been a bit of a graveyard for points for us. So for us to come away with something in such dramatic style, it can only be good. But the game that we're all nervous of, looking forward to in some ways, is, of course, the Forest game on Sunday. And Tudor, they're going to keep Tudor in post for that, obviously. Win that, we go into a 3-week international break. Now, what are the club thinking? None of us really know. I think if he wins that, you've got to give him the rest of the season. It's difficult because, like I say, last week I was sitting there saying he's got to go, but it's amazing how quickly things turn in football. And one swallow don't make a summer. That was just one performance, and we've got the small matter of Atletico Madrid in midweek, of course, in the Champions League, in a game that should mean something to me, but it doesn't, quite frankly. I think we need to go out of the Champions League and concentrate on the Premier League. Premier League survival is paramount. We're not winning the Champions League, but what I do want to see is actually a performance on Wednesday. It would be really good to even win the game, but not qualify. And it sounds really weird saying that, but we don't need extra games at this point in the season. But it would be good to get a decent fighting draw performance, no injuries, but ultimately, we need to concentrate on the Premier League. One more game before the international break, and that's Forest. 3 weeks before, hopefully, that last story I read out today about the more players that could be coming back for Igor Tudor. Firstly, we could have our full strength back four against Forest. We could have Porro, we could have Van der Ven, Romero, and Destiny Udogie, of course. What does he do? Does he change that up? I thought Danzo was superb. Even Dragusin played well. Does he change it up a bit? Porro, you'd think, will start at right back. I certainly hope he stays with the back four. Thought it worked well. 4-4-2, going a bit old school there, but it worked. The two up front worked. What does he do? Does he bring in Destiny Udogie? Jed Spence played well. As I say, Kevin Danzo played well. So you would think Van der Ven and Romero come in. Depends how fit Udogie is. Is he fit enough to start? It's going to be an interesting one. Could you play Van der Ven at left back, for example, and use his pace down the wing? Get him as an overlapping fullback. That'd be interesting. Played there for the Netherlands, of course. So loads of choices and good choices for Tudor. Hopefully, with players coming back. the most important thing is we win this game against Forest on Sunday, and it gives us a little bit of breathing space. And of course, it knocks them as well. It knocks them and it raises us up the league a little bit. Drags Leeds into it, depending how they get on. West Ham, obviously, big games coming up for them. So I personally think we need 3 wins. I would say 38, 39 points, and we're safe. Is that doable? Yes, it is. If the players play like they did against Liverpool, then I think we could get out of this. It is weird in football, like I say. I spent the whole of last week thinking we were going to get relegated, and then it drags you back in. They drag you back in and give you a bit of hope. And that performance alone, if they can recapture that, and we know they won't recapture that in every game because that's not how football works, but they need, as long as they can pull it off in the right games and get 9 points, I think we're going to be okay. But they've got to do it, and Tudor's got to get these players up for it. And hopefully these players are now starting to believe they can get out of it, because I think we've got the better squad of the teams down there in and around us. I think we'd all say that. But these players have got to believe. West Ham are battling. Great performance by them at the weekend. Forest are battling. We just got to get out of it. We've just got to get out of it, and the players have got to believe. And Tudor, that's on Tudor. He's got to start. Well, he sounds like he was already started making them believe they can get out of it, changed a few things, and perhaps has he now found that winning formation for Spurs? Is that 4-4-2? Are we going to see that again? I personally don't want to see us go back to a back 3, stick with a back 4 and go from there. But get down in the comments, let me know your thoughts on the Liverpool game yesterday and how Tottenham performed, and do you think having a back 4 and playing 4-4-2 is the way forward for us to get out of this season? Obviously not many games left, but I personally now, after seeing that yesterday, think we can do it. Get down in the comments and let me know. And as always, come on you Spurs.